I'm going to call the meeting to order, the City of Clewiston Commission meeting. If everybody would stand for prayer.
Father God, we come to you today to give you thanks, to give you glory, to give you honor for who you are and for everything you have blessed us with in this great city of Clewiston. We ask that your presence be in this meeting and that you guide us by the power of your Holy Spirit as we make decisions today. We thank you for the leadership you have given us and blessed us with in this city. We thank you that all authority has been given by you, and we honor the government leaders and officials here today. Bless them and protect them as they govern our wonderful city. The Bible says that if we need wisdom, that we can ask and you would generously give it to us. Right now we're asking for wisdom in all these decisions for these leaders that they're making today for the future of our city. We pray that you, God, would play a part in every decision that is made today. We also pray that the decisions made would be in the best interest of the people of our city presently and in the future generations to come, that every decision be made from a position of a pure heart and on the right motivation so that you can bless it. And we thank you for the blessings you have bestowed upon our city and all of our businessmen and women, all of our local farmers and everyone in this city. We pray that you would continue to prosper them so that we can see economic growth in our city. Bless every student and every school faculty member as we plan to prepare for this coming school year. And bless our families and communities and protect us all from sickness, disease, poverty, and any attack from the enemy. We thank you for who you are and for everything you're doing here in Clewiston. We're blessed to be a part of this city. We're blessed to be a part of this nation. We give you praise, honor, and glory today. Bless this meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions or deletions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Vice Mayor and Commission members, the changes that I would recommend, we had sent out an update late last week under public comment. Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart had planned to call in, they're in Congress in session now, regarding a resolution he's introduced in Congress concerning the Cuban crisis. And you have copies of that at your place. It's a resolution of support for the efforts, and we've had locally some citizens who have taken to the streets, if you will, been in our civic park about every night, from my observation, stating their viewpoints regarding this, and have expressed a desire to see the city consider supporting efforts such as the congressman's resolution. I would recommend, even though he's not calling in, that you consider whether you want to take a position of support for the resolution at, later on the agenda before after the ordinances and resolutions, before miscellaneous actions and discussion items, Mr. Vice Mayor.
And deleting 9A.
Yes, the next item is to delete 9A. The buyer has withdrawn their offer as recommended for Lot 1 in Commerce Park. The reasons given is the company is experiencing significant impacts from COVID-related. They're an import-export kind of, to some degree, particularly imports, and rising COVID numbers in other countries have impacted their operations and requires that they pause their consideration of expanding at this point. And so I, of course, told them that there's no obligation for us to hold the lot for them, and they didn't request it, knowing that, because I do have other offers, and I'll pursue those and come back to the board with a recommendation. But tonight you would be deleting item 9A from the agenda, and then we'd be adding item 9C, which is an extension. It expired during the holidays. 6/30 was the expiration date for closing, and the buyer is requested through the 21st, and the attorney's office can comment. They're scheduled to have a closing on Wednesday for that one, so it requires the formality of an adoption of the agenda attachment you received tonight to extend that date. No other terms have changed. And then lastly, the finance director, as I previously informed the board, and I'll be giving a budget update. We'll do that under city manager's report, and we have a handout for you for that. We'll go over the highlights of that at that time. And those are the changes we'd recommend to the agenda.
At this time, we'll move on to public comment. Any public comment? Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion for the consent agenda, and I just would like to state that I know that in the past meetings, I had asked for the workshop minutes of May 3rd to be reviewed, and I felt it was important, even though the minutes are not verbatim. I believe that the importance of capturing some of the statements that were made at that meeting, since that will become the official record. So that's my motion to go ahead and approve the consent agenda tonight.
Second. Any further discussion? There's already a motion, so proper way we amend the motion. I'd like to pull A. There are some additions to those minutes. I know it's been kicked down the road a little bit, but there is some important changes I need to make sure that's in there because it is the official record.
Okay. Which item?
A. It'll be the workshop in May 3rd.
You want to pull it for further discussion or just table it? Which I didn't.
Pull it until next month.
So not.
Be on the consent agenda for
okay.
next month.
So you're, all right. To be,
So I just
do you all want to amend your motion?
Withdraw my motion then?
That'd be the easiest way to amend the motion, make a new motion.
Okay.
So we're getting an amended motion then to approve all of it except A. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right, it wouldn't be an amended motion now since Commissioner
I withdrew it.
withdrew
Oh,
it.
okay,
And he's gotta
withdrawn.
withdraw
All
a
right,
second.
so a new motion. All right.
So we need a motion to accept the consent agenda without A.
I'll motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 2. Final reading of public hearing. Background history. Ordinance number 2021-01 adopts an amendment to the City of Clewiston Comprehensive Plan to change the text of the city's current 10-year water supply facilities work plan. City Consulting Engineer Andy Tilton presented the draft ordinance for review and recommendation by the City Planning and Zoning Board. The Planning and Zoning Board met on June 14th, 2021 and recommended approval of the ordinance. The vote was 3-0. Board members Hatham Kaki and Donnie Hughes were absent. The City Commission approved the first reading of the ordinance 2021-01 on June 21st, 2021 and set the public hearing for July 19th, 2021. The proposed ordinance and the 10-year water supply facilities work plan was distributed to the State Land Planning Agency and various other agencies for review on June 25th, 2021. Staff's recommendation is to table the final reading of the ordinance, number 2021-1 of August 16th, 2021, to allow more time to receive comments and review agencies. So we need a motion to table this.
Should be a motion to table or a motion to continue the public hearing since it's been open? I'm not sure how that works on a public hearing.
I'd say both, actually. That table action continue.
Yeah, the
the public
recommendation was
Okay, tabled action to continue. I'll make the motion. Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Okay.
Agenda item number 3. Resolution 2021-69, public hearing. Background. Resolution 2021-69 adopts the water and wastewater facilities plan as required by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection for Water and Wastewater State Revolving Fund Loan Program for the use of state revolving funds for construction of various water treatment plant improvements and various wastewater collection system upgrades. The City of Clewiston recently completed a comprehensive infiltration and inflow program. The investment of the infiltration and inflow reduction by the surrounding community should provide the city with some confidence and reduction in flows to its treatment plant, and hereby its operating costs are achievable. The city used SRF funds for this purpose. The next two phases of effort involve addressing lift stations, the lack of pumps and reliable pumps and control box issues, and plant disposal upgrades. The issues with paper and age create constant maintenance issues for the city. The next project phase will replace all pumps in the system, ensure every lift station has at least 2 operational pumps, standardize the pumps, and fix control boxes. The city will acquire a vacuum truck to help with maintenance and install overdue generators at the wastewater plant. The city has approved work orders to study these items, and bid documents for pumps and control boxes can be created to proceed. FDEP advises that their August meeting is the last opportunity in 2021 to obtain principal forgiveness loans, which the city needs. The documents need to be conveyed to FDEP in the next week to meet this target. Staff recommends that the City Commission authorize the mayor to sign the resolution so the city can forward same to the FDEP so that the next phase of the sewer program can be placed on the August SRF hearing. Financial impact, the cost of the upgrades is expected to be $3 million. This amount can be accommodated using the principal forgiveness loan under the rate study performed 2019-2020. Recommended to approve the resolution.
And at some point, we do have Fred, the engineer, on the line to comment, and he has a PowerPoint here that Danny may have something to add. We'd like to share with you and the public as part of the public hearing process, and then listen to any public comment and then take action.
You want to go first, Danny?
Fred's on it.
Fred,
I'm here.
you're up.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Fred Fletcher here. I have been working with you all for a couple of years trying to deal with the sanitary sewer problems. And our friends at DEP are interested in providing the city some additional money, and we have some needs. So they asked us to do the facilities plan that you have so that justifies us going forward with the project. It's a pro forma thing that DEP requires. And they require us to hold a public hearing so that we can get any community comments that there are. So that's what we're doing today. If you'd like me to run quickly, and I do mean quickly through the PowerPoint, I can do that. If you'd like me to do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I apologize. I got a class at 6 o'clock, so trying to get back here just from Clewiston would have been tough. Okay, so Danny, I'll let you go ahead. So slide 2, the goals of the facilities plan is to outline what the current system is, what the current resources that the city has are, and then identify basically the capital needs. And the whole point is that you can qualify for federal SRF funds. Next slide. DEP has a series of reasons for doing this because they want reliable service. You guys already engaged with rural water in creating an asset management plan, which is an important part of that. They want us to do good decision making so we make the best decisions for the city that are cost effective and implementable. We need permitting, which for the pump stations upgrades we do not. Also to figure out how we're going to pay that back. And we did the rate study a couple of years ago. I did that, and we given the principal forgiveness on the last loan and the expectation of principal forgiveness on this loan, which is why we're kind of pushing this along. We've got the money to cover that in the proposed budget going forward. Next slide, please. So the federal government actually requires FDEP to be able to demonstrate there's a facilities plan and a closeout, and that the improvements that the city makes with the SRF money comply with that facilities plan itself. And we do provide a capital financing plan that hopefully I'll finish that off with Sherry tomorrow. and then we'll submit all of this information to DEP before the end of the week. Next slide, please. Hopefully everybody pretty aware of your service areas, primarily the city of Clewiston, but there's also some things that are outside that. Next slide. So it encompasses just over 6 square miles, 4.6 of which were in the city, and there are 9,000 people that are served with the water and wastewater systems. Next slide. I need to just briefly discuss the water system. So you have a relatively new water plant, 10 years old. It's got 4 fluorid-in wells that can pump 1,000 gallons a minute. Plant's rated at a little over 2.5 MGD, and it's an RO system. Next slide are some pictures of it. Facility is in good shape, and so therefore, next slide, we don't really have any decisions to be made there. The next slide, we need to talk briefly about the water distribution system. And there's a full inventory of pipe that's part of your asset management plan. I'm actually going to volunteer to take a look and try to help Danny with identifying priority pipes to replace as part of that. But that's kind of an ongoing issue, and there was not particularly anything that jumped out at us as being a problem. So that leads us to the sewer collection system. Next slide. So you currently treat your wastewater with a 1.6 MGD oxidation ditch, all right, and it's got about 40 some odd miles of pipe that go to it. And you go back a couple of years ago, there was significant inflow infiltration. There's a consent order that sits out there. We've done a substantial amount of work on that, and Danny can tell you the good news about last month's flows, because I know he's dying to do that. But as a part of that process, we noted that there were a lot of stations that were missing pumps. When I came out and talked to you guys a couple of years ago, right before the COVID shutdown, one of the big issues is you have a lot of paper in the system. So there's a lot of handy wipes and baby wipes and other paper products like that that get tossed down your sanitary sewer system. And it creates a pretty significant challenge for your pumps. And so we really want to focus on that. So let's talk quickly about what we've already done. So if you go to the next slide, which should be the sewer system for the city. We've taken a look at a vast majority of the sewer lines in the city, and we try to deal with infiltration and inflow. So if you go to slide 13. So the first project we did in 2017, 2018 was dealing with the orange thing. So USSI came in, spent $477,000. We sealed the sanitary sewer system so that you would keep water from going into the system from rainfall. We plugged up the cleanouts that were leaking and things like that. And so then we moved to the second project. So next slide. So you'll remember the smoke testing that occurred. That was to help us identify where there were problems. The LDL plugs were put into the cleanouts, and we have those dishes everywhere. The next phase, slide 15, please. We looked at 83,000 feet of pipe that leaked. There was over almost 60,000 feet that we actually lined. The two most interesting things we found is we found a pair of artesian flows that were coming in to the sanitary sewer system that required well pointing down in the south side of the city. So that was sort of an interesting thing. And so we've completed that work. You approved a change order to complete that, so about $1.8 million was spent there. The good news, that was less than the loan amount was, and also we didn't really need to go back and look at laterals. We only found about a dozen laterals that needed any investigation, and those could simply be people with running toilets. So it's a very small number, so we think the laterals are in pretty good shape. So it's time to proceed to phase 3. Next slide, please. So there was a discussion several months ago on a work order to take a look at investigating the sanitary sewer system, looking at the lift stations, figuring out what pumps were there, what conditions they were in. While we're at it, we took a look at whether both pumps were there, whether there's a lot of paper in the system, and what the condition of the control boxes, which are those silver stainless steel boxes that are next to the lift stations. Those are really important because that's where all the starters and things that automatically run those lift stations are actually controlled. And if the boxes are not in good shape, that will negatively impact your sewer system. So what we did, if you look at the cost comparison slide in slide number 17, we took a look at the cost for this project, which is basically we'll replace all the boxes that need to be replaced. We do not replace them all, but replace a lot of them. We will replace all the pumps that are not slight, because we're specifically looking at slight. And I also prepared a bid document to obtain the pumps that basically says anything that's a small pump, you have a lot of 1 horsepower, 1.5 horsepower type pumps. I'm going to suggest we go to grinders because I think that will help with the paper problem because those tend to be small areas and they're very easily clogged up. Big benefit of this is if we go ahead and do that, we also get you a Vector truck because you have to borrow one, and that will help with problems as well. And borrowing, we think the cheapest thing is to proceed down this way in the 20-year lifespan that DEP requires us to look at things. So the recommendation was to proceed with the boxes. DEP also agreed with us that since you have a significant issue with our friends with DEP in Fort Myers about getting the generators in, that they would permit the generators to be a part of this project. So we've done that as well. Next slide. So let's talk briefly about the wastewater plant. So this is a oxidation dish there on the left-hand side of slide number 18. And basic process flow diagrams next to it. We don't really need to go into a lot of that, except that you need backup power generators permanently installed there. And there have been a series of small modifications that have been made with time. So I go to the next slide. One of the big issues, so it's a 1.5 million gallon a day plant, one of the big issues is that you have used spray fields to get rid of the wastewater, and that appears to create a host of challenges. The folks at Big Sugar also use ponds that are nearby, and so it's difficult to separate out groundwater impacted by them versus issues from you. Also, the engineer that you have there, McCaffrey Brinson, thinks that there are some collapsed spray field pipes and some other issues that are there. So slide 20 shows a series of needs that came out of your consent order. Now, they were really concerned about exceeding the capacity of the plant at 1.5 million gallons a day. And that, when we first got involved in the project, I first got involved in this project, that was a consistent issue. And Danny, tell them what the flow was last month.
0.87.
Yeah, it's about a little under 60% of the flow. We have made a difference, but we also believe that there's some flow that comes in from folks that are not metered that we need to address. So I told Danny we would come out there one day and try to diagnose that for him. So the DEP required basically that you proceed with the I-9 project. I think it's been pretty successful. And that they do note these groundwater exceedances, which suggest some small operational issues with the ditch and also issues with the spray field. Next slide, please. So this was McCaffrey Brinson's observations. There was PDX in the spray field. They went through your data, and their suggestion is there's damaged or clogged non-functional underdrains that are out there, and some issues with the crops and things like that. They have suggested you actually take a look at using the deep well to dispose of water as a means to get out of having to deal with that. And that's something that they need to come forward in the future and chat with. That would basically be phase 4. But what we're doing with this conversation is setting it up so we don't have to go through the process for phase 4. They're already going to be set to proceed with that. Next slide should be the phase 4 plant improvement. So McCaffrey Brinson suggested an effluent injection pump station to go to the deep well, which would solve a lot of the issues that potentially might exist with the spray field. Look at the spray field anyway because you need a backup. They also had asked Lakeside, who's your ditch manufacturer to take a look at some issues. So they thought that the rotor motors should be upgraded. That's a mouthful there. And it also put variable speed drives in. You could also save some power by looking at the total dissolved oxygen, so ramp up with that. So that would improve the efficiency of the plant. DEP wants a spare sodium hypochlorite metering pump. There is a consideration of eliminating or relocating a monitoring well that seems to be influenced by whatever sugar does. And of course, the electric power, which we're going to go deal with the phase 3. Next slide should say cost comparison. We took a look at the cost comparisons, and we could do nothing other than get fined every day, which is just not an acceptable answer. But we took a look at the spray field as well as the Class 1 option. Those two look pretty similar, and they were going to require a little more work from McCaffrey Brinson to come out and really verify which one of the best long-term solutions for you. So from the two of those, I can't really separate them out. Next slide, please. So this is our proposed SRF program. We would go ahead and proceed with the lift station boxes and the pumps and the generators and an installation contract. I had a long conversation with Danny Williams, and our thought is buy the pumps, have the boxes made, and hire somebody who can come in and put the two together, and I think that's a pretty good plan. So I've created some draft specs, our bid packages to send to DEP to go do that project. They required those in order to put this on the agenda, so I went ahead and proceeded with that. And McCaffrey Brinson also has the generators done. So we're looking at spending, about $3 million over the next year. We'll close that contract out, which should set you up for the phase 4 project. Again, we would arrange that so that it would be money that would have principal forgiveness. And we put $3 million in there as a number, but you can see from the cost estimate, it's probably under 2 when we get done with it. Next slide. All these projects are fundable through the SRF program. That's the goal here, is to do that. The interest rates are about 0.6% right now, but the opportunity to get up to 80% of the principal forgiven, and therefore acting as, that 4-letter word that begins with grant. Sounds like a great thing to pursue. And that's what the city's done in the past, is we've been able to adopt that. And DEP is very interested in trying to proceed with that and get towards the end of the phase improvements. So slide 26, the recommendation is to approve the facilities plan from me and from staff. And therefore, slide 27 is any questions or any public comments that anybody has that we can answer. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd suggest you open the floor to public comments for anyone that's here.
Any public comment? Danny, have you put a dollar amount on that savings?
No, not yet. I will.
On this phase,
No, he's talking about the treatment with our flows going down. It'll be quite substantial. I mean, because we've been over-treating.
I had it about $2 million. I put 3 in for the number to cover any contingency we have, but we have not submitted that RFI yet. So we'll need to get some better numbers from McCaffrey Brinson for that piece.
And during the budget,
Also would be encompassed in the rate study. We might want to update it at that point.
yeah, that's what I was going to say, is during the budget process, we'll be discussing any implications for the annual operating budget in terms of treatment cost reductions and so forth, electricity, things like that. But as Danny pointed out, it will be significant.
Fred, I know we've talked about reuse in the past.
That's part of the,
And so I think, to me, that's one of the things that we have to look at is reuse when you look at the issue of the spray fields. And I know that we have a deep well injection, but I mean, so many cities are reusing their water. And I just think we have, places where that reuse water could be used.
And just to comment on that, we submit an application to the state last week under the new funding from the state to seek upgrading our plant process to tertiary treatment with reuse quality effluent. Of course, that's going to take multiple years, so we're going to have something between now and then to satisfy the consent order on the current operations, but that could take 4 or 5 years if funded in the relatively near future to have that fully constructed and get a new permit. And we'd, of course, be asking for additional treatment capacity as part of that ask. But
I just didn't want us to miss out. I know we've talked about it off and on, and there had been funding for a while for reuse, but it looks like there's
it's there now,
opportunities.
and more money than has been available in the past. We've applied under a couple of different sources, but the most promising is the new state funding for that purpose.
That is part of our update.
Well, the improvements over the last several years the city's made, especially towards this, has been impressive. I'm hoping the public's aware of what's been going on, because a lot of good changes are happening and going to continue to change.
Absolutely.
Great.
Just the infiltration project saved us millions and millions of expanding the plant.
And cost avoidance from potential fines, because that would have been the next step. We're under consent order, and if we had continued to have those overflows, not overflows, but higher than our permitted allowance, as we were having before, every time there was a heavy rain event, the city would see it go, $1 million or more?
Would be 3.0.
Yeah, go to 3. So we were double our plant permit, and you can't sustain that because they're going to fine you at some point if you don't take actions.
And all that's in excess of the savings on the excess treatment.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, the recommendation is to approve the resolution 2021-69. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Fred.
All right. Good evening. I'm good.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
My apologies.
We didn't comment, so you might want to. We knew you were coming.
Every delay that you could have had it traveling happened today, starting at 5:30 this morning.
I'm glad you made it back safe.
Take a deep breath.
We're on number 4.
Number 4. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll take a
Agenda item number 4, Resolution 2021-70. This is a public hearing. Resolution 2021-70 approves the special exception request from Clewiston Marina, Inc. to continue to use the property located at 901 North Francisco Street, Clewiston, parcel ID number 3-34-43-010-0013-002-0 as an RV park with the following stipulation. Special exception to expire 5 years from the date of approval. The property is currently zoned R3 residential. The City Planning and Zoning Board met on July 12, 2021, and recommended approval of the request with the following stipulation. Special exception to expire 5 years from the date of approval. The vote was 4-0. Board member Donnie Hughes was absent. Financial impact, there'll be none. Do we have any comments from our citizens at this time? Reading by title, Resolution number 2021-70, resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving the special exception request from Clewiston Marina, Inc. to continue to use the parcel located at 901 North Francisco Street as an RV park. Recommended motion is to approve Resolution 2021-70. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Highslope, second by Gardner. Do you have any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 5, ordinance number 2021-02. This is a first reading. And this is on the future land use map classification change request from Florida Community Health Centers, Inc. The background, ordinance 2021-02 amends the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. It provides for the reclassification of 2 lots located in block 451 from multifamily two-family to commercial, and finds this action to meet the standards of a small-scale amendment. The applicant, Florida Community Health Centers, Inc., is requesting a small-scale future land use map amendment for the property located at 319 and 323 West Trinidad Avenue, more particularly described as lots 2 and 3 and block 451 of the general plan of Clewiston. The applicant is also requesting a concurrent rezoning of the subject property from two-family residential R2 to commercial use C district. Agenda item number 3. The Planning and Zoning Board met on April 26, 2021 to consider the request, and after review and discussion, recommended approval of the amendment to the small-scale future land use map of the comprehensive plan. The vote was 4-0. Board member Haitham Kaki was absent. There is no financial impact to the city on this. Do we have any citizen comments at this time?
Good evening, Commissioners. Laura Smith, 206 Ridgewood Avenue. I'm one of the adjoining property owners directly across the road from this property that you're discussing. I did bring my dissent to the Planning and Zoning Board for one particular reason, is that property has no sidewalks for the children to walk on. It's also going to increase the amount of traffic directly across from my driveway and mailboxes on that road. It was recommended that some kind of barrier during the planning phase could be installed there to limit the number of entries and exits from that proposed parking lot. Right now, it's currently under grass and nice landscaping, so it's a good buffer between the residential and commercial. By putting a parking lot right there basically puts my future tenants and current tenants under the duress of commercial traffic back and forth in that parking. So I would ask them, and I will follow it closely to make sure that that is consider the time to do the parking lot, because the entrance and exit on Ventura is a 1 in, 1 out, and so is theirs further down. So I think that could be accomplished, and I think I could possibly live with that. But it does have an impact on a property of mine. So
Duly noted. Thank you, Laura.
And Mr. Reese can comment further, but our intent is to address the concerns that were raised at the planning and zoning during the technical review of the actual site plan and so forth.
If I remember correctly, Travis, you can verify this, and I think that when we had this discussion previously, when that back parking lot was put up, was the buffer, the requirement for the buffer zone from that area to the residential area.
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Gardner. When that was rezoned and used as a parking lot, there was requirements for some landscaping to be put in. It is a transition zone in commercial. We did hear the resident, she spoke at the Planning and Zoning Board, and we made it clear that we would, if it is to be developed as a parking lot, it would require some buffering, and we would work with the applicant. And the applicant has indicated they're willing to work with the city to have the best development we can. But I do want to caution the board members that when you rezone property, that it will now be commercial property. In the future, how that develops is only regulated by your ordinance. So it could be developed to any standard inside the commercial zoning allowable use in that district is allowable. We have no reason to believe it's not going to be developed as a parking lot, but I want you to keep that in mind. It's a rezone.
Thanks, Travis.
I have, I guess, to the attorneys, I have a question about that. With Travis's just question that he just, the point that he just brought up. We're sitting here and the request is to rezone into, because of the work that's being done at the Community Health Center, which we all appreciate the work that's been done this past year without a doubt. And we've seen over the years the expansion because there is a need in the community, and the Community Health Center has fit that need. But in the future, if, let's say, something changes and you go to another location, the fact that tonight we're approving it based on the Community Health Center's need for a parking lot, what is that impact, and how can we limit that future impact by making a decision tonight to help the current property owner? That somebody else isn't going to come in and build a gas station that would increase, everything in that area because it is zone commercial. So I guess I need some clarity from advice from the attorneys on how we can make sure that this request is specifically for this need that's coming forward as a parking lot. And I don't know legally if we can do that, but that is definitely something that we don't want to hinder the current property owner, but yet we have to look out for that whole entire neighborhood in making a decision like this.
I'd agree. Is there any way to stipulate the purpose?
So this is a straight rezoning, and you're not going to be able to condition it to prevent that from happening in the future. As Travis mentioned, once it goes commercial, it can be used for any commercial purpose in the future. You do not have the ability to limit that under your code.
Thank you, Gary.
Could it be applied for as a special exception, Gary?
Well, no, I mean, this is a straight rezoning that's accommodated by your code. So a special exception really would not be appropriate in this circumstance.
Well, just for clarity, this request that you're dealing with right now is for the comprehensive land use map. The other one is rezoning, and Lot 2 is already zoned business. Just want to make sure everybody makes that distinction. The next item on the agenda. So you're just talking about expanding the zoning to add Lot 3. But these are small lots, but collectively, with the existing property and its use, you could do a lot more with it. But these two lots are what square footage, Travis? 5,000. So that in and of itself is going to greatly limit what uses can be made of these two lots. But I don't believe that property owner likely would do anything with these lots other than what they're planning as long as they're there.
Right.
If they sell it, they're going to sell it all. And then we'd have the site plan review, but the city attorney's correct. You could not prohibit the future use of them as commercial.
So if I'm understanding, one of them's already commercial?
Correct. Lot 2.
The other lot can't be built upon because it's too small, period.
As a business use, it's barely enough for a house.
Residential use,
Yeah.
it's too small. You can't build
That's a
anything
good
on it.
point, and that's part of their reasoning.
Is Lot 2 the one adjacent to the property?
Is that correct, Travis? I believe.
There's a map there.
I think that's correct. See which one's Lot 2. Is it the one immediately adjacent to the existing site? Yes.
Let's see if we can.
Yeah, if you look back at the lot map, it's Lot 2 is the one on the right, the immediately adjacent, the east side. Lot 3 is the west side of the two lots. The westernmost lot.
And one comment I would make again, for planning and zoning board, there is a definite need for additional parking. The parking is occurring, and it's parking and not in designated parking areas. So I just wanted to add that was one of the topics of discussion.
That helps.
I think any of us who ride by there every day can see that there's a need for additional parking.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt.
And as a practical matter, given the dimensions and the configuration, it would be challenging for them to do very much with both of these lots commercially, other than parking or some ancillary use to a business if the larger building were to convert.
And Laura, where is your building?
Directly opposite. On the
She's
south
a
side.
residential on the south side of that street.
If you take those two lots exactly south of that.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Recommended motion is to approve ordinance number 2021-02 and reading by title is an ordinance of Clewiston, Florida, amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan providing for the reclassification of 2 lots of real property located in Block 451 from multifamily two-family to commercial, finding this action to meet the standards of a small-scale amendment and providing an effective date. Do we have a motion?
Are we able to make the motion and have it include the request for buffering? Or is
No, that has to be.
You can make that comment for the record, but it wouldn't be part of the motion. So I think that's the way the planning and zoning also discussed it.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to get it on the table.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion.
He made a motion to get it on the table by Pittman.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
Second by Greg.
And as we discuss this, I mean, I think that we need to be what the requirement or the recommendations were, that those are, I guess, memorialized and that they're done. I realize that buffering is critical to that property and to the adjacent property owners into that neighborhood, because what we're seeing is commercial encroach on residential. And at what point, do we have to limit the growth of commercial going into a residential neighborhood? I mean, that's a question that I've had as I read this. And, I can speak for myself because when we looked at this originally, we wanted to help out the Florida Community Health Center because of the fact that they are supplying such a wonderful service to the community. And so there were houses that came down and we thought it was important. But at what point is the continued encroachment a good thing for that neighborhood? And so I've struggled with this, honestly, because I know the impact of a commercial into a neighborhood. But also this is a public service that's being offered. So it's...
I agree.
And this is amendment to the future land use map, right?
Correct.
So we have a motion to approve. We have a second by Commissioner Thompson. We have a caveat from Commissioner Highslope with a concern for the buffering.
I think there was
The
3 things.
buffering, I believe, is already in the landscaping code anyway.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
We call it transitional zone, when you have it commercial or any zoning district that immediately abuts residential.
And the other aspect that I recall we discussed is the technical review committee would look at the particular design to minimize the impacts on the residential access across the street and in that area and the way it's laid out, because there's a lot of options on how this
Right,
additional
in and out
parking can be accessed
The other concern was sidewalks.
and sidewalks.
Would that still be up for approval for building and zoning, the way they lay that out?
It will go through the technical review committee at the staff level. So yes, sir, we'll go through a review, but not a public review, it'll be a staff review. And if you look in the staff report, because the traffic is already being generated there, there's no additional trips currently as it's proposed. Just again, we just caution it is rezoning, that it could change in the future what they're proposed to do. But currently there's no additional trips because those clients are still attending or visiting that facility daily.
So just, Randy, just to make sure I'm understanding the concerns of the landscaping and the buffering, and I know that our code already has that, the issue of the traffic, and then the sidewalks. That is
Those
something
are the
the
items
technical
that technical
review
review
committee
committee will
will
review.
address.
And it could be this is more appropriate for their staff. That I guess when you look at their access points, that's probably who'll be using this, I would imagine, from what I understood.
And the zoning change isn't until.
That's the next item 6.
Next item.
Next agenda.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 6. First reading zoning land use change request from Florida Community Health Centers. The background, ordinance 2021-03 amends the official zoning map by rezoning real property located in block 451 from two-family residential use R2 district to commercial use C district. The applicant, Florida Community Health Centers, Inc., is requesting a zoning land use change for the property located at 319 and 323 West Trinidad Avenue, more particularly described as lots 2 and 3 in Block 451 of the general plan of Clewiston. It has been determined that Lot 2 is already zoned commercial use C. The Planning and Zoning Board met on April 26, 2021 to consider the request, and after review and discussion, recommended approval of the rezone of Lot 3. The vote was 4-0. Board Member Hatham Kaki was absent. There is no financial impact on this item. Does anyone in the audience have a comment or question? Hearing none, the recommended motion is to approve ordinance 2021-03 on first reading. We have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pittman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Heislow. Do you have questions or discussion?
I have a comment. Years ago, we talked about having multiple commercial zoning, and this right here is one reason we should have, is because if we had it, a C1, a C2, a C3, whatever you want to call it, then we could have those zones already designated for just parking lots or light commercial or certain things of that nature. So we wouldn't run into this problem that if they ever vacated the building and it got sold, yes, it could become a chop shop. So that's also another remedy, maybe not for tonight, obviously, but down the road, again, I'll bring it up that staff may need to bring some recommendations. What other cities run into the same problem? And I think one of the ways they resolve it is with different commercial zoning.
Good
So-
point.
Does the county, Travis, does the county not have different zones?
They do, and they also use overlays,
Yeah.
which is a additional restriction on a geographical area inside a zoning district.
Yeah, and
So
then,
there are multiple ways to do it, and currently in your comprehensive plan, you have your commercial zoning district, but you also have 27 corridor now and downtown district, where effectively could be considered a C2 and C3, although they have not been actually put into action yet, but they are in your comprehensive plan, and you could rezone properties, commercial properties, to those designations when ready.
and in my experience, that's exactly what some communities will do. You'll have transitional commercial, which is more limited than your broader. And so we certainly can look at that at staff level if that's consensus of the board that we do so, and see which option's most expeditious, because in every transitional zone, you're obviously going to end at some other use, either residential or something else. So I think it's appropriate.
I think that's a good way to show our residents that we value, having them in all the different areas, in Clewiston too. We appreciate Florida Community Health, but we also appreciate Ms. Smith and her home, and maybe that's a way to express that.
Mr. Brandenburg, go ahead.
Yes, another way to address this is you make everything but the very essential basic commercial uses in each one of the zoning districts, C1, C2, C3, allowed, and then you make everything else a conditional use that you can impose conditions on and which have to be abided by. And that requires a rewrite of your code. That's what many of the larger cities and counties do to control this type of thing so it doesn't happen as you fear.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion by Commissioner Pittman, a second by Commissioner Heislope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 7. Resolution 2021-71. Resolution 2021-71 approves the continuing agreement for professional services work order number 2020-06 between the City of Clewiston and Johnson Engineering, Inc. for the Alvarez Avenue and Commercio Street Water Main Extension Program. Financial impact is $99,158. The work order fees are based on utilizing a portion of the work already completed, showing a savings of $36,142 to this city. Does anyone of our citizens have a comment on this item? Hearing none, the recommended motion is to approve. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Gardner. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Gardner, second by Heisler. Discussion or comments? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item number 8 is resolution number 2021-72, and this approves the continuing agreement for professional services work order number 01 between the City of Clewiston and Erdman Anthony of Florida, Inc. for the construction, engineering, and inspection CEI services for road improvements on East Ventura Avenue. Project ID number is FP 440377-1-34-1. Financial impact to the city is $87,150. Does anyone of our citizens have a comment on this agenda item? Hearing none, the recommended motion is to approve Resolution 2021-72, reading by title. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving work order number 01 of the continuing agreement for professional services between the City of Clewiston and Erdman Anthony of Florida, Inc. for the construction, engineering, and inspection CEI services for road improvements on East Ventura Avenue. Project number 440377-134-1. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Thompson, second by Gardner.
And Randy, just for the record, I mean, I know we've talked about this before, that the reason why this is, the services are needed is because of the fact that it is state funding that we're receiving.
Yes, and the legislature changed it a couple years ago to where the same firm that designs a project that receives those funds, state funds, cannot also do the inspection on it. So we're having to contract that out. If you recall, we went through a process of acquiring a number of firms for that very reason, and this will be the use of another one of those who has recently done some other road improvements in our area under the county. So we this is the last piece of the puzzle to get that project started right away. You already awarded the contract for East Ventura and for the construction, and we have to have this firm in place before they can begin, and they're ready to go.
That's exciting. So we have a motion by Thompson, second by Gardner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, note for the record, Heisler was out of the room at the time of the vote. Continuing on to agenda number 9. Resolution numbers 2021-73 and 2021-74.
Number 9A, Mayor, before you arrived,
The
was
change,
withdrawn, and the documents are there, and we've amended the agenda and eliminated 9A. So we're down to 9B,
So we're just 9B.
and we've added 9C. I know you didn't have an opportunity to review that. So
Okay.
we've added a 9C, but 9B is the one we're at to award the contract.
Okay, so we're doing B and C is what we're doing.
Resolution 2021-74.
All right, so resolution number 2021-74 approves and authorizes the mayor to sign the contract for sale and purchase between the City of Clewiston and Hollywood Beach Vacation Rentals, LLC, for the sale of lots 13 and 14, Clewiston Commerce Park, Addition 1. Purchase price is $261,361.20, which price will be adjusted at closing to $120 per square foot. Does anyone from the community have questions or comments? Hearing none, recommended motion is to approve. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Thompson. Do we have a second? Second by Pittman.
And I have questions for the city manager on
Yes,
this
ma'am.
one. You know, when I look at Hollywood Beach Vacation Rentals
I was
LLC,
going to ask also.
Yeah, they're not going to build a beach there.
I'm trying to figure
or
out
rental.
Office
what is
space
it?
or-
What's happening?
It's
I
an
mean,
existing LLC that this group owns, and their intent is to construct. I'll give a real quick version. Facilities that will be subject to rent to eligible businesses to move into the park, almost like a industrial incubator, if you will. They're going to build several spaces to suit. Each of them will be independent with their own bathrooms and offices and so forth, and an operations center. We've got some existing commercial buildings in town similarly designed, but this one will give an opportunity for new startup businesses or anyone else who's in that growth mode to occupy it and perform their business. It will still have to meet the CPID requirements for the Commerce Park in terms of the uses that go there, but those eligible uses will be able to perform there, and they're going to construct several units on these properties for rental to eligible businesses. And we've had quite a bit of demand and interest in that since we've been marketing the property. And some were not prepared to buy their own and build their own, but they would like to rent existing space in town. And that's a fairly tight commodity right now from what I gather.
okay, so the name
But
is
they'll
the name will change then.
they'll probably come back with a request to modify it to some other operating entity, but that is the LLC. Mr. Brandenburg may have additional comments, but we've made it very clear that they have to move forward, and we're trying to close as many of these as quickly as possible and get these things resolved.
Any other questions, comments, discussion?
I'd like to say I think it's a neat idea, and I think it's exciting to be able to have the possibility of a number of different services in our community instead of just one, new business. I think that's good.
And those smaller spaces are definitely looked for. There's a couple of teachers that have side gigs
Hustles.
that have been looking for exactly that kind
I
of
think
thing.
it offers
so I'm good that
a
we're going to be
new
able to
perspective.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so this is resolution number 2021-74. We have a motion by Commissioner Thompson, second by Pittman. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
And the next item would be 9C, which is 21-75, and you have a copy there. And,
Yes.
Mr. Brandenburg can comment further on it, but essentially, this company, their time period was expiring, and we need to confirm tonight to extend it through this Wednesday, I believe it is, so that they can close by the 21st.
And that's resolution 2021-75.
Correct.
Okay, amends the contract for sale and purchase between the City of Clewiston and OSGC Services Limited Liability Corp. Of lot number 5, Clewiston Commerce Park. Do we have any comments from citizens, questions? Hearing none, recommended motion is to approve resolution 2021-75.
So moved.
Motion by Heislope, second by Thompson.
And I'd like to hear from the attorney, any updates he might have on this closing.
Mr. Brandenburg, do you have any updates on the closing, sir?
I have none. Dylan may want to comment.
Commissioners, nothing more than what was already stated by the city manager.
So it's scheduled for the 21st?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
And we added an item after this, Mayor, before we go into the remainder of the agenda. This is relative to the information I'd sent out to the commission. The commission agreed to add it to the agenda. Even though Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart could not call in as scheduled under public comment to comment on his efforts related to the situation in Cuba, he had shared with us the resolution that you have copies of at your place that he has introduced in the House of Representatives, expressing solidarity with the Cuban people in their demands for freedom and respect for basic human rights, and a number of other provisions that you have. It's a rather lengthy resolution, but it has been discussed or considered and requested by the different parties that the city commission consider endorsing this resolution as an act of support for the effort. So I don't know if you want to share any additional excerpts of the resolution, but in essence, it doesn't specify any specific task or actions. It just expresses that support.
But it definitely targets the human rights.
Correct.
And the necessity for us to support the change that needs to happen on basic human rights on the issue.
And I had mentioned under my presentation about adding it to the agenda that we've had local citizens who have been active every evening in our civic park to speak to this issue.
They've been
and
very
express
faithful.
their
They even traveled to Washington, D.C.
I
by
didn't-
bus.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Okay.
I was, one good thing about being away and watching on Facebook, I got to see
I just spoke
their
to
commitment.
the organizers of the protest out here in town, and they weren't able to make it back from DC in time to come to the meeting. They was hoping to get here to speak before the commission, but they invited all of us, if you can come out tonight for 5, 10, 15 minutes of support, and they really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I would like to move we endorse Representative Ballart's resolution.
We have a motion by Commissioner Thompson to support the resolution put forth by Mario Diaz-Balart expressing solidarity with the Cuban people in their demands for freedom and respect for basic human rights. Do we have a second? Second by High Slope. Any other discussion or questions?
No, I just think I appreciate the commission. First of all, I appreciate what our congressman has done, and I know that he's quite busy up in D.C. right now with this whole entire just regular Congress and everything else that's been going on. But I think it's important, as in, echo what's been said tonight, that we do, endorse it, and that we also continue to show support for the Cuban people. I know there's lots of stories, hundreds of stories out there, thousands of stories out there, but they're all the same thing, is that when you're not free and you're deprived of your basic human rights, and you live in total bondage, average salaries are anywhere from $16 to $25 a month. A roll of toilet paper costs $1. You have to stand in line for every basic need, including food. That everything is nationalized, so therefore nobody owns anything. It is something that is very hard for most of us to understand, other than if we're close to that situation. We know what's happening. We see it now more than ever. I think the world sees it, and I'm just appreciative that America's Sweetest Town endorses this resolution to show our support.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, if I could, I'd like to recognize a young man from this community. He's really been carrying the torch for the,
Yes.
the Cuban community in our town. Johnny Navarro, they out of their own pocket, they drove to DC, and they've been up there for several days, and they came back today. And he really has been in the forefront of this movement in our town, and is did well in the media and represents our town very well.
And when you say young man, this is a very young man, not far removed from high school, who has really represented admirably. I agree. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Do we have any questions on our old business, new business? Any questions on the budget report?
I'm sorry, I do have on
Go
old
ahead.
business
Yes,
tonight.
ma'am.
I mean, I know that the Main Street Corridor Plan was mentioned tonight, and I know that Commercial layering was also mentioned, but I think, Randy, those are some of the, I think, critical issues that have to be addressed going forward. I know that there's a lot of priorities, a lot of things that we're having to deal with, but to me, those two are significant for the community, and it's been difficult to finish that up. We've talked about it on both of those, but I think that we need to really buckle down and get that done, and I'm willing to do however many workshops we need to hash all both of those issues out as a commission.
I agree.
Which ones? I missed.
Main Street corridors and what the commercial layering that was mentioned tonight. I think those are important.
Main Street. I mean, I think we need to put dates on most of them. Let's put a date on the,
Okay.
we have the storm shutters on there, and we have the building across the street, the metal building. I mean, talked about what we need to make the decision, and at least since November. I think if we put a date beside it, and like Commissioner Gardner said, just have a meeting and let's hash it out.
Okay. I will push those forward.
Do you want to do a workshop before, or do you just want to move forward with a meeting?
No, we can do a workshop.
I'm sure we'll need
think
one on
do a workshop.
those
Get
topics.
started.
Message heard.
While we're sitting here, today's the 19th.
Well, we're going to have at least a fairly soon budget workshop. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, the budget update. But I would suggest that maybe we can tag it to one of those, the first one, to talk about the commercial zoning things and give you an update on where we're at. That's agreeable.
All right.
So it'll be sometime this month, later this month. All right.
Commissioners, that's good with you? Okay.
Okay. Are you ready to go to the budget?
Yes, sir, I am. I hope everybody else is. Yes. I know we're all eager to find out what's going on.
We handed that out, a report. You've got it. The finance director and I, we were going to do it in the form of a separate workshop at the end of the meeting, but given the nature of what we've been able to put together, I would suggest we just continue right on and do it now. Give you this hopefully relatively brief update on the status of particularly some of the revenue projections, which are still a work in progress and coming in from the state, but we do have some numbers. Just walk you through the bullets that she has, and then I've attached a copy of the previous CIP that was done last year, multi-year, that you can look at the 22 year and get an idea of the items that were included for 22 budget year. And I've got a few updates for you as we walk through that. I've done this cover memo, but the first section is regarding general fund revenue projections, and I'd like Ms. Howell to walk you through her attachments on that, if that's agreeable.
Yes, that's fine.
Sherry Howell, Finance. As City Manager Martin stated, he provided a cover memo regarding the information that we're handing out tonight. The information that I've supplied starts after that memo, and it's numbered. And it begins with the revenue distributions that we get from the state of Florida. We have basically 6 different distributions that we receive, and they start coming in. The estimates for them we receive from the state of Florida, and they start coming in sometime at the end of June and through, typically through mid-July. For some reason this year, and they were a little late last year as well, we haven't received all of them. So if you start on page 1, list out the 6 different distributions. So the handout that I have after the memo. Okay, so the 2 that we don't have any estimates for are our discretionary tax and our communication service tax. We didn't have a meeting scheduled with the the revenue estimate conference. That's the part of the state that provides these estimates. They have a meeting scheduled for July 23rd, so hopefully sometime between then, we'll get estimates on those. We check them every day, like 2 or 3 times a day to see if they've come out. And they are subject to change until they finalize them. The meeting on the 23rd is to hopefully finalize them. But some of them, and it doesn't differentiate between which ones have been affected and which ones haven't, but some of the estimates may not reflect the impacts of the legislation passed during the 2021 legislature session. So they will be meeting again on October 17th. But typically when we do get the estimates through the end of July, I've not seen them change. Page 3 is the current estimates projected with the overall increase of $87,940. So you'll see where it says state revenue sharing. Our estimate is up $46,537,000 from last year. Half-cent sales tax up $39,031. Local option is down $13,470. And then the second local option is up $4,793. And again, the two that we don't have, the discretionary tax and the communication sales tax, for presentation purposes, we did provide some information. This discretionary tax, I really feel that it will hold its own simply because the half-cent sales tax and the state revenue sharing have. So what we did, we provided a 5-year average of the actuals, which showed it increasing at $11,049. The communication sales tax, we don't show any change. I didn't want to show any change to you guys because it's really volatile. It moves, and we're probably going to get less than we have, simply because we're communicating differently. People are getting rid of it's a tax that's basically on communication services, and that's decreasing. So if I would have done a 5-year average, it wouldn't have been. I didn't feel like it would be good. It would be way out of whack.
Yeah.
So I left it alone. And pages 4 through 7, that's the historical data that I'm referring to, that will show you. I've got each sheet. We have a graph and we have the historical data for each revenue distribution provided in those. I don't know if you want me to go over them, but for your review, they're there with a graph that has the budget and the actuals that were received for the last 5 years. If anybody has any questions about the state revenue distribution information, or if you want me to go into detail on the graphs, or if you'd just like to review them until our budget workshop.
Yeah, we'll just,
Yes.
we can call you if we have a question. Right?
Yes, please. Then page 8 has ad valorem taxes. As of July 1st, 2021, our gross taxable value for the city is $286,146,808. That's an increase from the previous year of $5,758,458. I don't have the breakout yet of what that is, but I can get it for you. In other words, whether it was new construction or tangible property. But I can get that for you and just let you know what the increase actually represents. So the page after that, page 9, is a review of millage rates for the trim process, something that you'll want to look at. It has our current millage rate, which is 6.5314. It also has our rollback rate of 6.0237. It has the generated ad valorem taxes for you to review. It also has, what a quarter of a mil would be, what a half of a mil would be. And then the bottom set of numbers That's basically the budgeted ad valorem taxes, stating that we calculate, our budget calculates, the budget for our ad valorem taxes is calculated utilizing 95% of our gross taxable value. So when we budget for them, we budget at 95%. So the bottom is a reflection of what it would be. And then for comparison's sake, we just use the current rollback, the current millage with the rollback, and show you what the difference between it would be, budget-wise. Also included in the ad valorem taxes, we have 2 CRA community redevelopment areas. We've been receiving, last year was the first time we received funds in both of them. This year, again, we'll be receiving tax incremental funding. Our current year tax increment values for the 2 areas that we have Clewiston CRA. The increment value on that is $12,153,616. And that's up from last year. It's up $11,649,777. And what I've provided here for presentation is simply using the current millage rates, because I have no idea what we'll set it at. And the TIF money would be based on the actual millage rate that the commission decides. But if we were to use our current millage rates, this will show you the CRA TIF money that each area will generate. For Clewiston, we're at 6.5314 mils. So our portion of it would be $79,380. Hendry County, their current millage is 7.9312. So if they were to keep theirs, then their contribution to this, to the Clewiston Redevelopment Agency would be $96,393. So together it would be $175,773. Then we have our second area, which is Clewiston CRA expansion. That one is at $4,241,111. It's up this year, $1,018,256. And again, I have a TIF estimate with the current millage rates, and it would be $61,337 together. Clewiston's portion would be $27,700, with Hendry County at $33,637. And again, it's just for presentation and because we don't know what the millage would be.
The takeaway to me on that is now we're getting some significant dollars finally, after none for several years. Until this current fiscal year, we have not obligated any of that funding from this category. You budgeted a projection on it, but we didn't budget what we were going to spend it on. So that added to this, we're going to have several $100,000 potentially, as Sherry pointed out, until these numbers are finalized. We'll have a significant amount of money to seriously look at projects either related to the vision planning we've done or downtown revitalization type things, and other eligible activities in these areas.
Sherry, you didn't calculate the rollback rate using the TIF, did you? That's not in here. You just did the millage rate.
For the TIF information.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, so it would either,
It'll go down some, but I just was wondering how much it would go down by.
we'll certainly be
Okay,
able to
thank
provide
you.
that.
So together, with the CRA and the CRA expansion, the total estimated TIF funding at the current millage rate is $237,110. And for budgeting purposes, again, it's at 95%. So that would be $225,000, $255,000 that would be available current for, again, Mr. Martin says, for those areas in which it is used to fight blight and those kind of things. Page 13 is our state aid to libraries grant. Our state recommends that we base the budget estimate on the previous year's actuals, so that one's pretty easy for us to determine. This year, what we received for our state aid to libraries is $131,552. That's for the Hendry County Library Cooperative, which the commission is the board for that, but that actually supports 3 libraries within our county, which is Clewiston, Harlem, and Barron Library. And they share those funds. That's an estimate increase of $5,374 from what we've budgeted last year. Last year's budget, or 2021, we budgeted to anticipate $126,178. And even though it was a decrease from previous, we did end up getting more than we thought that we were going to get. So that's pretty good. And we anticipate we'll have a carryover of these funds of approximately about $30,000.
Okay, if we could pause there and go back to the memo, page 1 at the bottom. We'll quickly review. We don't have any projections for you yet. We're still working on those, but we want to talk just briefly about those are the general fund revenue categories, the major ones, other than local revenues that we have information on thus far. With regard to the enterprise funds, which is our water and sewer, electric, and solid waste funds, we're still working on the projections for those funds, but we did want to mention a few things. I'm pleased to report at this time that the current year budget revenues for all these funds, these enterprise funds, water, sewer, electric, and solid waste, are tracking consistent with the projections for the 2021 budget, meaning we're on target with our revenue projections. Based upon the rate adjustment schedules that were authorized last fiscal year and following the rate study efforts and conclusions, it's not anticipated at this time that the city will need to modify the previously approved changes in the schedule. The information, we'll give you additional information, but essentially we were able to, we set the projected budget rate increase on the water and sewer specifically. We put into effect January 1 of 21, an increase that took us this, just using as example, the typical per 1,000 gallon or the rate for it is $6.30. Scheduled at this time, effective October 1, that would go to $6.62, which is what will impact this budget. The budget, a previously approved schedule, has increases slated for October 1 of 22 and the last one in October 1 of 23. Sewer, we had it at $5 January 1, and it goes to $5.15 under the proposed budget schedule, and then have increases so forth for 22 and 23. For all users, there's some other modifications, but that's primarily what impacts the individual residential type property user in terms of the rate impact per 1,000 gallons of usage. We're still working with FMPA on the electric projections, but we are on track with what our budget projection was, and we'll be looking at what type of cost of living increase as we agreed upon. We'll look at that this year as to whether any additional adjustment needs to be made in the electric rates. But we took into consideration the capital projects that are slated for this year's budget, and we recently near finalizing the contract on our AMI project, which will have implications, but that was factored into the budget. So electric, we'll come back with some additional data on that. In terms of solid waste, we're, like the other funds, on target with our budget projections. We had an increase as of January 1 of 21. It went to $24.40 a month, $24.40 per month for the residential services as we reviewed in depth last year. And that one, again, will be looked at in terms of whether any kind of COLA adjustment is justified this year. But other than that, we don't see any other changes to the rate structure that we'll be recommending unless some type of COLA increase in either of those categories is deemed necessary. So just want to give you that bit of an update. It's encouraging that we're on track with the budget and so forth. And that covers the revenue areas. In terms of expenditures, Sherry's going to next go into some of the major categories we typically see change from year to year. going back to her PowerPoint that you have there, slides. And the first one, of course, I'll let her talk about it, but there are some major expenditure categories that are expected to impact this year's budget as they normally do. And one of those obviously is insurance. So Sherry, back to you.
Page 14, the handout. We have our property and casualty insurance. It's not set in stone, but we were told to anticipate an estimated 12% increase. So our current expense is $407,324. So 12% increase would increase that to $456,203. That's a citywide impact of $48,879. And I've broken it out per fund for you so you can see what the impacts were. Then page 15 includes our employee health insurance. Again, we haven't received any concrete estimates for that. We're trying to get them. But we have anticipated a 7 to 10% estimated increase. When I'm working on the budget, I built in 7% impact on the expenses for that. Has a citywide impact of $102,891. But again, as I said, that's a 7% estimated cost increase, but it's also a snapshot in time for the staffing that we have at this time as well, and what we're budgeting for staff. So that includes an additional 3% that's attributed to the staffing process.
Is that increase because of major illness, or what's the major reasoning for the increase?
I have not been able to get any information regarding that. I basically just guesstimated about the 7%. So I'm hoping that it won't be 7%, but I don't have any information, and I'm trying to get that.
Typically, our experience will be a major driver in the insurance company's final determination based on experience. So we just don't know yet. They haven't given it to us, but we want to build something in. Hopefully it'll be good news and be significantly less than this. But given last year, the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen increases. So we just didn't want to start at zero and expect it to stay there and increase.
Randy, when's the last time we shopped this plan? Not to reduce it, but
Last year.
compare apples to apples.
We did last year. And I think y'all had done it the year before that, right?
A couple of years before that.
Maybe a couple years before that. But we did get 2 prices last year and selected staying with the league plan, the league-sponsored plan. The property coverage, I don't know when you've
Can I just
looked
say,
on that.
oh, I'm sorry, on the health insurance, because I mean, we saw over the years like 32%, 31%
Oh, yeah,
increases.
yeah.
And one of the benefits of the league is that it's a pooled plan. Not saying that that's going to always be the
And that
way.
can be an advantage in the experience, because they experience mods. They sometimes spread them across the whole pool. And so
A lot of insurance companies over the last several years were raising their rates incrementally in response to fines for the Cadillac plans. So they're anticipating that fine, so they're build it up, but you never get it back.
yeah, and we have reduced the level of benefit to some degree over the years. We've been some tweaks to the plan, and that's another option we can look at. Is there any tweaks we can make to the coverages to offset some portion of whatever they may
I wouldn't
come
want
back?
to reduce coverage. That's one of the few benefits of working for a
Sure.
municipality.
Well, it would come to, most likely would be the amount of deductible, things like that. You may look at some of those. Not a lot of change in the actual benefit itself, mostly just the cost elements of it. With regard to the property and liability coverages, we've been told to estimate 12. That's with PRM, which is through the league-sponsored plan. Has that been farmed out before, or are there other markets? I don't know what the city's history on that is. Sherry, could you?
Well, a couple of years ago, basically, I believe it's the
Same time you
year
did the health?
We did the health insurance, we also did the property.
Okay, I hadn't heard that, so.
And I will say the 12% increase is very conservative. So I'm hoping that when it comes in, it will be much lower, but it's at the top of the range.
But the key there is we just wanted to show you that if you look at the impact of those two items alone is $150,000 increased cost potentially. We don't know yet. When you're looking at the revenue side, growth and the increase looks good, but there's some hands reaching for it. We anticipate, at least on the health and property coverage.
How's the staff, how's the service with the league insurance, health insurance? Is everyone happy with the service as far as you can tell? The employees, the administration?
I can tell you that during my wife's illness, the insurance performed wonderfully.
I've had no complaints of late from regarding it. I know my experience, my family's experience has been really good since I've been here, but I haven't had any. I know when they first shifted last year, we did get some rumblings, or a year or so ago when it was shifted to the league plan. There was some rumblings because there was different methods of dealing with customers, and particularly with employees. It wasn't as hands-on, I guess, was one of the feedbacks I heard maybe. But overall, we had, of course, we went through COVID, and that messed up a lot of plans that were there to have meetings with employees and other things and wellness programs, and a lot of that fell to the wayside. But we did this year just have a wellness evaluation. We reinstated that this year, and it was pretty well participated, wasn't it, Kathy? Yeah, but so jury's still out, I guess. It's only been a couple years, but I haven't heard a lot of adverse feedback of late of problems that employees have run into in terms of getting, unless you ladies have heard.
Again, I would echo what you said. Is when we first went, we did have to look at some of the areas and the deductibles for certain things, but when you look at the plan overall, it was the best fit for what we were trying to do, the deductibles and the plan that you guys all approved. So I haven't heard any negative feedback myself, but you may hear that more than I would.
Yeah. In the beginning, I did, and I've got some notes that I don't remember exactly what they were, but I haven't heard anything
This year.
this year.
Yeah.
It could be more for like a procedure, might be, the deductible might be a lot more money than it would have been in the past for something. But again, overall, for what we went with, it was the best, in my opinion, the best fit for the employee and the best for the city, because we also want to look at monies, but we have a very good plan. I mean, and I tell employees that I come into contact with, I see what it costs, and I feel like we have a very good plan. I'm very thankful for what we do have.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, if you could refer back to the memo, I hate to jump around, but the third page where the paragraph, the first major paragraph starts out, management is still evaluating options, where it says personnel salary and benefit. Now, this is just for information. I'm not making any recommendation on any of these items tonight, but I don't want anybody to get their hopes up or to feel deflated, but I do feel like I need to give you some numbers to put you in perspective on how our budget is looking early on, of what it would take to do some sort of salary adjustment and the inherent benefit cost increase. And what I did was ask Sherry to put some pencil to that. And in that paragraph, I talk about the potential for a COLA adjustment, for example, with salary. And I give you an example of 3% and a 2%. I use 3 because that's what the county administrator advised me that Hendry County is considering in this year's budget, is a 3% COLA. And you see what the cost impact would be for the city to do a 3% with the inherent benefit increases that go with it. Just under $300,000, $294,413 across all funds. That'd be general fund and all the other funds. I didn't do a breakdown of that just for simplicity. By comparison, a 2% would be $239,870. And that's just for information, just in case you're interested in looking at what that would take to do the budget. And when you compare those with these other insurance-related costs, you sort of see where we're at in terms of, if you have additional revenue, that's one way you could use it in the operating budget, and gives you something to think about. And that's sort of tonight, is just to generate thought and give you some facts that you could go with. Lastly, unless you want to discuss any of that, the capital outlay expenditures is a really unique situation this year. The city's been blessed with some really good news on the grant end. We expect more. We talked more about that tonight in Fred's presentation. I briefed you that we've submitted an application for full funding of our wastewater treatment plant upgrades to reuse level plant. And all of those things in mind, I've given you what we did last year in the new CIP that's got 5 and 10 year projections out in different categories. But this year we'll be adding several major elements, and these will be updated in this plan when you see it again. The police fleet discussion, updating our fleet. I did want to point out that in discussing this and reviewing it with the finance director, one good piece of news item this year is our current debt is paid off in the current year budget for the last time the city bought a collective significant number of vehicles. I think it was 10 vehicles were purchased back in 2016 was the last time the city bought any. And the debt service for that is going away, the final payment. So that's going to free up a little over $60,000 in funds for a new purchase of whatever way we end up going. We're looking at lease purchase options for vehicles, looking at leasing, as I've told you before. The interim chief and I and Sherry have been talking about various elements of this, the pros and the cons. But we'll be coming back to you with hard numbers on what it will take and how many vehicles we're going to recommend be considered for purchase this year. But the good news is at least we're starting rather than zero. We've got 61,000 and change in the budget that'll be freed up if we want to go that route again. And then we have the option of federal allocations, reimbursements that we've received through the CARES Act and potentially other sources that could be used to pay additional cost if it's higher than that. One thing I would point out, though, I just came to my attention today, the last time the city bought 10 vehicles, they were not police-equipped vehicles. They bought, I don't want to say just regular cars, I guess is the right way to put it. And that meant a lower cost, but we've paid some premium for maintenance and whatever related to that. And we're looking at all the options. What is the most cost effective? What is the best operating options that would give us the lowest fuel use, fuel economy, those kind of things are we taking into consideration. So at one of our early workshops, I plan on the police department budget being a major item to talk specifically of and give you those numbers and a recommendation that we're likely to make on which way to go with regard to those vehicles. That will be added to the CIP. The other things that will be added, of course, we'll update it and add another year to the tail end of it, but the other big ones is the computer technology upgrades that we sorely need. Some of this goes towards our compliance with the auditor's comment. I've updated y'all on some of the other stuff we've been doing, training and so forth. JD and Sherry have been working together. Our insurance company did an evaluation of our security, cybersecurity. We've improved our rating, which was good from their assessment. But one of the key items is some of our operating systems, our technology is really outdated and very suspect in terms of its ability to fight cyber threats. So fortunately, we'll be recommending using, as I've told you before, some of those dollars from the CARES reimbursement we received to upgrade all of the computers that we operate within the city departments, and hopefully there's sufficient funds to do all of them, including the ones at the library that the public has access to and so forth. You'll see that in the budget process as well. The other items will be any remaining CARES dollars, if there are any, but the American Recovery Plan Act dollars. We're still anticipating, they haven't given us a new updated number, but the last estimate was 3.2 million. The state asked for an extension of time to distribute those funds. We're anticipating getting half of that this year, which would be, let's say, in the neighborhood of 1.5 to 1.6 million, if that estimate holds. And some of that we will be making recommendations on utility, particularly the water elements, because some of the money is eligible for water improvements, like the one we talked about tonight, that the engineering is being done on Alvarez.
Randy, that money can only be spent on bottled water, sewage, storm runoff, and broadband, correct?
Yeah, that's the main categories, but there's some flexibility. We're learning in the fine detail that there are some other potential options, and we're going to keep evaluating that. And there've been several workshops and webinars, and Sherry and I have listened to some of them, and I've read all the documents, but it's still getting fleshed out in the Treasury Department on potential other uses related to the emergency response. I know the county's looking at it. We don't have emergency medical staff, but as an example, they're looking at getting reimbursed for their expenditures for the EMS this past year with some of their monies, to the extent those dollars would cover it. And so we're going to look at all those kind of things and see if that gives us some additional flexibility and where we can use it to fill some other holes budget-wise. But those are the primary ones that were in the original legislation that you ticked off. So those are the big impacts. So you'll see all of the new items added, but we checked some boxes and clipped off a lot of things in 21 that were included in the CIP. So tonight was just to refresh your memory about what was in last year's CIP. And of course, as I mentioned to you, I haven't said publicly, and I was going to thank the congressman. We have been recommended for funding for the next phase of Ventura by City Hall, from Dean Duff to W.C. Owen in the congressional budget appropriation. Of course, that's a long way from adopted, but at least we're in the hunt for almost $1 million to do that section of Ventura. And I got some really good news today on a smaller scale. Just got word today that we got the $50,000 for the matching grant for for Trinidad Park to put in the playground. We've applied for 2 years in a row. In 19, about time I came, or just before I came here, U.S. Sugar donated $50,000 for that, and we've been applying every year. And this year we got funded. And so that'll be $100,000 in playground equipment improvements at the Trinidad Park. Because most of you probably remember, it was before my time. The old equipment was, I guess, outdated, so it was just demolished and removed when the renovation of the park was done a couple of years ago. But that's a FERDAP grant that we got. Just got word of that today.
That's great news.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that's what we have for tonight for budget workshop. I'll be communicating some dates to you to have the next, where we'll give you more data and more up to date on, and start bringing in the departments to talk about specific items.
So you don't have any dates right now?
I wanted to make sure that Sherry's got all this financial information, because we're right now playing with gaps, and so I'm hopeful, but sometime later this month we need one, I anticipate, and I hope to have another contract for Commerce Park to act on. So latter week of this month, probably within a week or 2 weeks.
Only 2 weeks.
Well, we only got 2 weeks, so within 2 weeks I want to do, if we can schedule it, and I'll probably start with the police department if we can get those items together. Yes, Sherry.
Just for clarity, I wanted to say we have to have a special meeting. So
We've got to have for the rollback anyway, and so we have to have it during those dates. And what was the date we had? August 5th. We've got to have one.
Electronically.
Do it before then. August 4th. So sometime prior to that, we've got to have at least one more work session. And
it would have to be a meeting.
a regular, well, it'd be a meeting and a work session. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have a call meeting plus a workshop and do.
We need to do animal control and fire for the counties. purposes? I know they probably.
Yeah,
will.
we haven't gotten anything from them, but I've communicated with the county administrator and we've been talking about it. We're having a meeting with the county to talk about shared services and that will be one of them, but we will bring those up pretty quickly as well. Yeah, fire, I think we'll be ready for that one. We might even do that one first, just so we can get it to the county as quickly as possible. But I will get y'all's calendars, but hopefully most of us have played out our vacation trips and we can really get serious about it now.
So do you anticipate later this week, or is it really, we're really looking at the week of the 26th?
Week of the
and then
26th
second or
is
the
what I
third?
think, start then.
Okay.
Week of the 26th. Is Monday, on Monday's been your preference, is that,
I won't be here.
you gonna be gone on that one?
Yeah, I told y'all last month.
That's
I'd
right,
be
you
gone.
did.
You wrote it down.
The week of the 26th. That whole
I'll be
week.
gone the whole week, but I'll be gone Monday, Tuesday, and I might be back Wednesday.
All right, well, maybe we can shoot Wednesday, Thursday that week, one of those two.
Thursday the 29th.
That work for most everybody?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's,
I don't.
Or, and I know sometimes when we've had special meetings, we've had it at lunchtime, in case, maybe that Friday, if people can't, if we,
well, I'll poll you,
schedule.
but if you can let me know if
Or the
that
second, which
date
is a
works
Monday.
around the 29th, that would be work. And then we may need another one the next week.
I'll be good.
Yeah, next after that, I'm good.
All right, so we can shoot for another one maybe around the 2nd of August, that following Monday too.
Definitely have to
Friday,
do
the
rollback
30th.
rate again.
All right, well, I'll talk to you some more on those then, but thank you for that reminder.
Respectfully.
I'd forgotten that
One-on-one.
you mentioned it. Okay, thank you, Sherry, and good job in putting that together. Any questions or comments, or this will give you something to chew on in the meantime?
Thank you, Sherry.
Yes, thanks.
Yes,
Sherry.
thank you.
All right, that's all I had, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor,
Anything?
Commissioners, I actually have 2 items.
Yes.
Awesome. Very good.
The first item is a update to the Commerce Park sales chart to reflect the current status of the various lots. I received some positive feedback for the iteration of the last one,
Yes.
so I will provide the new one to you this evening.
Excellent.
Item number 2 is a summary of the 2021 legislative session newly adopted laws that will have an effect upon the municipality. We've prepared a short summary of the various bills that will have an effect, and I will also provide that to you for your review. And if there are any questions, they can be addressed at moving forward or at the next meeting.
Okay.
I'm going to move forward and
Yeah, because I
and
want to
I'd
make
like
sure Kathy gets one also to put now. While you're doing that,
Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson, what do you got?
I'd like to commend the golf course, putting on a very successful camp for the kids.
Oh, thank
I
you.
think it's
Sorry.
more successful than expected.
Good.
Hopefully we can carry on. It's a great option for the kids to have something to do in the summertime. I'd like to follow up with Danny and asking if you could, not to be an exact, but a dollar amount on the savings on that project. I think it's important for us to know and the community to know just what kind of quick and significant return on that capital spent on that project. And if you could just update us on the meters a little bit. If you got,
As Randy said, we're negotiating the contract and we're right at the end. So once we do, census is done with the contract, the attorney looks it over, we'll move forward in meetings and more than likely put the water meters out first. That's pretty much where we are. Just waiting on the census to finalize the contract.
And at this point, I've been very pleased with the minimal number of changes they've requested, and we haven't had any major issues. And Gary's office done a fantastic job of reviewing it and commenting, and he had a hand in drafting it. So I envision that could be on our August agenda.
Yes.
Possible.
And if I may, I would like to ask the chief to give an update on animal control and what's been going on at the PD, the radios, filling vacancies.
Yeah, it's good.
But start with the radios. It's a finalized project. This is one of our newest radios, we're currently on the 800 megahertz system. We went live on Friday.
Right.
So all portables are in the hands of our officers. Mobile radios are all been installed in our cars. Everything's fully programmed. Dispatch console's been updated. There's really nothing left. But we have a few tweaks. We still have Communications International, which is our vendor, in the PD, literally doing little tweaks, but we are 100% fully operational. So that would be the radio project.
Excellent.
Anybody have any questions on that?
Good news. Sleep a little better at night.
Sorry?
I'll sleep a little better at night.
Yeah, you and me both, for sure. Animal control, a lot has been going on over the last like 6 weeks. We've completely kind of did an overhaul. They are now being dispatched through the police dispatch center. So every call for service comes into the police dispatch and they get dispatched like any other officer. They're tracked through our CAD system as far as response times, things of that nature. We've completely developed a whole brand new set of policies as far as what their duties and responsibilities are, what they respond to, what they don't respond to, shelter operations policies on exactly how that's going to operate. Everything from business hours, which we found out we weren't complying with state statute. There has to be at least a minimum of 1 day a week where you stay open after 5 p.m. So we've kind of fixed that issue. A whole host of things. We've come up with different cleaning schedules and things like that, just something that gives a little bit more structure to our staff moving forward. We've also hired a part-time kennel tech. She started on the 6th. Bethany, she's doing great. She's currently being trained by a few of our partners out there, and we're getting kind of her up to speed as far as that goes. Some other things in animal control. I apologize, I didn't prepare.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Okay.
There's definitely a lot of things going on, for sure.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Have you thought about reinstating a volunteer program or continuing it, or?
We have. I've been in some preliminary discussions with Randy about bringing some volunteers back. You know, I'm a big proponent of volunteers. Where I came from, we had a very robust volunteer program. Obviously, want to make sure that the city is covered from a liability perspective when we do bring them in, but the answer is yes.
Have you had other rescues reach out to you?
I just recently sat down with Clewiston. I believe that was on Friday, and so we are rebuilding not only that partnership, but a few others that have reached out to us. You know, the good news is we're hearing what the problems are. I think they're becoming more and more vocal now that they think there's an ear. So we're definitely moving forward.
Right.
Thank you.
And we're going to be meeting with the county. I referenced that to talk about the interlocal agreement. We've had some preliminaries. County was looking at doing it countywide, but I think now they're going to focus on working with us in the first phase.
I remember you said it had been many years since we.
80s, maybe 86. Similar to the fire situation we had. It was 70s, but this was 86 was the last change.
As far as staffing at the police department goes, we've conducted a ton of interviews. I mean, the more the applications come in, you know, we sit down with them fairly quickly. We have about 5 right now that are in background, so we're hoping to fill up the ranks fairly quickly. We have another interview for our open evidence tech position tomorrow, and we should be, I would estimate, in the next 90 days, we should have those slots full. We're just trying to be a little selective and a little picky. We're not giving everybody an interview. We're not hiring the first person that walks in the door. We're trying to build a better quality team.
Haven't you improved on the leadership structure?
We have. Well, actually, I could introduce you. The guy that I've known actually for a long time, former chief and deputy chief over at the Lee County Port Authority, Dan Brophy. He's actually come on as our support services commander. He's going to oversee our evidence and that kind of reconstruction on that end, and he's going to still oversee anything and everything that doesn't have a badge and a gun, what we call our support services. All of our civilians, from communications to evidence to records, and ultimately our accreditation function.
Would animal control fall under that?
Animal control as well. Yep, Dan is getting up to speed on that. And actually, we have a great resource. His daughter is a vet tech, and son-in-law is a kennel manager. So he's got a little bit of background, a little bit of help from that perspective.
So you say we already have 2 volunteers?
Well, actually, they are coming in to volunteer, do an inspection on our facility, and really kind of give us their opinion on moving forward. So they have a little bit of industry standard knowledge there.
So is that commander position in lieu of an assistant chief?
Correct. What we did to restructure is we took the dollars that were being spent salary-wise on the assistant chief's position, and technically we had a 9th officer where we were only actually technically structuring for 8. So we took both of those salaries, we combined them, and ultimately came up with 2 commander positions. I think saved a little bit of dollars there on salary overall, but now we have a little bit more functional structure. I think it's going to be a little bit better for accountability and supervisory span and control, those type of things.
And you've made an interim appointment on that, so.
I'm sorry, sir?
You made an interim appointment in the other commander
I
position.
did. The other commander's position is an interim position. Again, you guys haven't selected a chief of police, a permanent chief of police. So, in the absence of or I should say, in the event that you guys do not select somebody that's already in there, I'd like a spot to go to. So that's good. We like to keep an opening.
And
And then keep it flexible.
I'm sorry.
You want to name him?
Yeah. I mean, we could do that tonight if you like.
No, I meant the
The interim commander is Tito Nieves. And Tito actually has a wealth of experience, about 18 years. He was kind of instrumental in kind of bringing the radio project to fruition. He had a little bit of expertise in that area, so that was actually really great.
When you get a radio
Tito came
demo.
through our criminal justice program.
Yes,
He was one of the
he's
first
definitely a
students.
hometown-
Oh, that's
definitely a
awesome.
hometown boy. His father was a police officer.
Police
for
officer
a long,
here.
long time,
Yep,
and he definitely has a lot of pride.
So with those 3, with you and the 2 commanders, you still have everybody that you need to work on the road and investigations.
That is correct. I mean, of course, we're slightly understaffed, but we haven't missed a call yet. Our response times are definitely important, and we're tracking them.
Thank you.
How about the cooperation with the county?
Well, I mean, as you saw on the agenda, consent agenda, we have a mutual aid agreement. I don't think our relationship could be better. Obviously, it's still in those, premature stages, but moving forward, everything seems to be great. Me and the sheriff have sat down, I don't, to be honest with you, dozens of times so far. We have a great working relationship. We're developing a great personal relationship. So I mean, I call him at least a few times a week for sure. Yep. Yeah, and as far as the working relationship on the road, I'd say they help us every day. We unfortunately had an incident today where they actually kind of stepped in and assisted us as well. So it's definitely been a great back and forth street for that.
That's refreshing.
Yeah, he even donated a lot of equipment to us already. 30 tasers, which we estimate, that's about $20,000 worth of equipment.
Yeah, it's almost 1,000 a piece.
It was for nothing but just, hey, you're a great partner, and here you go. And so I thankfully accepted it.
Oh, another thing, I forgot the Narcan.
Narcan. So that was a partnership with the EMS, the Hendrick County EMS, Amy Stafford. She volunteered to actually come in. She trained our entire staff, and the first time that we had the Narcan out on the street. And my understanding is we actually responded to one today.
And how much did that cost us?
That costed us $0. That was just a partnership. We just reached out, developed that relationship, I guess, if you will, and so that kind of turned out really great.
For common people don't know what Narcan is and how important it is to law enforcement to have on them.
So unfortunately, I mean, every community in America now, you're seeing rises in the opioid or opiate overdoses. I think most commonly here you're seeing fentanyl, and of course this is something that counteracts that. And ultimately, I will tell you, it's an amazing product. I describe it to my wife as magic, because these people look like they're next to death, and they talking like me and you, a couple of minutes later. Now sometimes they want to fight, but that's the because they could be under different types of narcotics, like several. So you're only taking them out of the one that's overdosing them. So now you're dealing with somebody who's still maybe high on a non-opiate type of drug. But that's the name of the game.
Travis, is the fire department going to have that also?
We carry a little bit more potent Narcan, but the ones that law enforcement gets are about half strength.
Okay.
This stuff is so powerful that if we have an officer searching a car, don't have to touch it in a baggie, just come in contact on a seat or something, and they'll be down within seconds. It could save our officers' lives too.
Yeah, fentanyl is definitely a very dangerous substance, and unfortunately, it is common in our community. So we also train the animal control officers on fentanyl. God forbid they come into contact with a user when they're out in the job. So now they can actually have Narcan to use on themselves or on each other. If they're there with each other, and they do start to feel the effects of that. So a little bit of enhancement there.
A lot of good changes.
A lot of good change. Yeah. As far as the police department is concerned, I think we're definitely on the right track for sure.
Thank you, Chief.
Just no enforcement of noise ordinance.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just sharpen your pencil.
Yes, sir.
He's down to the nub now.
Mr. Pittman?
Yeah, I didn't, I don't know if anyone ever got the question about non-employees riding in city
I've
vehicles.
asked for an answer on that and just hadn't received. I even consulted with the league on what their model policies regarding that are and the insurance company. That's the main thing I want to hear. What is their take on it? And so I'll be reporting you on both of those.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Commissioner Heisler?
I would like to see, Randy, if you could direct staff to take a look at, I don't know the specific name of the plaza, but it's the plaza on the north side of town that Tractor Supply is in. And the Goodwill and Bell's. It's a little bit of a sad plaza. It's kind of dirty. It's we were just riding through town this weekend and went up there and went behind the building to make a donation to the Goodwill, cleaning out some stuff, and it's just in rough shape.
Code
If there's-
valuation.
yeah.
Okay.
Please.
It is.
It is. And,
Parking lot's bad.
and I know, like, I think I've talked to Sean about it before. Maybe was it you that told me that they picked up so much garbage from there, just about every day. And it kind of gets into that burner swell there. But somehow or another, the owner and or businesses in that plaza need to be held to some extent accountable for the shape of the plaza and keeping it clean
Okay.
and up to par.
Thank you.
And that's all.
And just following up, I wasn't going to mention it tonight, but I know that I've spoken to the city manager about just the overall, to me, just the degradation in that area. And when I rode around, Travis, on your street, I noticed that the canal bank looks like it's falling in. And so in 4 or 5 places there behind that whole plaza and the development. So to me, I think, Randy, if I don't know who needs to assess it, but I think that, thank you for mentioning, because that whole area, I think, needs to be looked at, and especially that canal bank.
Yeah, I haven't noticed the canal bank.
I didn't notice it either, and I
With
was
all
right
the
there.
rain that we've been having,
It's
I
washed
think
out.
it was I mean, it's like, you know,
Don't they
areas
supposed
of
to put up a
washout.
barrier when they do construction? That way
I
They've got
I
a
believe
they got
there
an
is one, or
erosion
there was
barrier
one.
on one side. They don't have it on the other side. But
So if y'all could just look at that since
Okay.
we're talking about that area.
all right, we'll do it.
Okay.
Who's our representative now on Drainage District?
David Davis is still,
No, our representative, the cities.
I don't know.
I was actually told that we didn't have a representative, that we
should have a member. I don't recall who it is.
well, I know in the past it was Mr. Rowland, but when we asked about it at the first of the year, it said that it was basically a community member. It did not have to be somebody from the commission.
That was what
And
I
he
was
had,
told,
and
yeah.
he was still on there. Yeah,
Well,
but we can, should we look at that again, just to,
Always been a city commission.
yeah.
Yeah, I would
And that's what I
contact
had
Mr.
stated,
Davis
but,
You would want it to
yeah,
be leadership.
absolutely. Yeah, so if we could look at that again, I agree, because that is a concern. And I'll echo the issue of the trash.
This is.
okay.
I think
The
he
trash,
lives in
you know, and
Wellington.
I know this, you,
drives
Randy, you
over.
send city staff out on Fridays and throughout, but that Burner
He
Road
lives in
corridor,
Wellington and
that whole
represents-
area there.
Every day.
From Burner Road to the railroad tracks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just following up on
Oh, okay.
that whole area there. It just continues to, I think.
Yeah, it's a
degrade the
constant
town.
maintenance.
Just one thing, McDonald's had a serious breach at their control structure, and has quite a washout there. Right now, they're in, violation of their DEP permit to be there. I have been in contact with, Nesbitt, and they have their engineers working on it to get it corrected. So, if you see that big washout,
Yeah.
we are on it. And
Okay.
Don't call him.
I
in
didn't
other
notice
words.
that one. I did not notice that one, but
I haven't
certainly
seen
around
that
the behind Tractor Supply in that area, so. And the trash. I appreciate city staff looking at it, and then on Burner Road, at night, that stop sign that we've
Yeah.
done to slow down the traffic, I think we need to have some striping on the road because even though you know it's there and it's rainy, it's easy to miss without having something on the roadway.
Yep. Stop bar. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And take down the mailbox on the utility pole.
That's it.
It's that time. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Gardner, second by Heisler.
Both of
All
them were
in
unanimous.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Go home.
Thank you. Good progress.
Thank you, young.